Death Stranding 2 On the Beach has finally arrived. The long-awaited sequel from the ever-eccentric Hideo Kojima once again blends sci-fi, deep human emotion, sentient electric guitars, and yes, even talking babies. But beneath all that strangeness lies something far more profound. The subtitle, On the Beach, isn't just a poetic touch. Kojima is being intentional, leaving behind a trail of clues, layered references, and striking visual metaphors, all pointing toward death, global trauma, and one unsettling question: how do we go on living when it feels like the world has already ended? So today on Rotten Donut, we're diving deep into the mystery of On the Beach, piece by piece. Because this isn't just a sequel, it's a message. To understand why Death Stranding 2 carries a subtitle On the Beach, we have to go back to 1957, when British author Neville Shute published a novel that would forever shape the post-apocalyptic genre. In On the Beach, Shute imagines a future devastated by a global nuclear war. The northern hemisphere lies in ruins, and deadly radiation relentlessly creeps toward the southern hemisphere, where the last survivors of humanity cling to existence. But there are no heroic saviors here, no happy endings, just a harrowing and inevitable waiting. The characters know the end is near, and the novel portrays with heartbreaking realism how they face that looming certainty. The novel made such an impact that it was adapted into a film in 1959, with haunting images that still resonate today for their raw emotional weight. It's a work that reflects on the fragility of life, human responsibility, and our profound helplessness in the face of disaster. So why did Kojima choose this title? In the Death Stranding universe, the beach isn't just a normal shore, it's a liminal space, the border between life and death. A personal limbo where the soul pauses, caught between two worlds. But in this sequel, the beach seems to expand beyond the individual plane to become a collective purgatory, a shared space among all characters, mirroring the dying state of the real world. The reference to On the Beach is a powerful metaphor, a world on the brink of extinction, where hope has run dry and the only certainty left is the end. And yet, amidst this despair, Kojima introduces a crucial element: connection. The rope, the bridge, the human bond, something that persists despite the catastrophe, and perhaps holds the key to crossing that beach once again. In the first Death Stranding, Sam Porter Bridges achieved the impossible, reconnecting the United States through the chiral network, a technology powered by otherworldly particles that allowed people, cities, and data to be linked in real time. That monumental effort represented more than just infrastructure. It was an act of faith in humanity, in its ability to rebuild after the fall. But as we see in Death Stranding 2, that dream didn't fully come true. The world is still broken. Cities lie in ruins, the terrain has grown increasingly hostile, and the threat of extinction, the so-called Death Stranding, hasn't disappeared. In fact, it seems to have evolved into something new, darker, and even harder to comprehend. Technology wasn't enough to stop the collapse. What remains are rust-covered ruins, long-abandoned structures, and new enemies that blur the line between human and machine. As if humanity, desperate to survive, had forced its own evolution beyond the point of no return. Even Sam has changed. He's no longer the tireless porter who risked everything just to deliver a package. His body bears the weight of time, aged, scarred by deep wounds, and carrying a quiet melancholy. His eyes no longer reflect hope, but burden. Everything suggests that many years have passed since the events of the first game, and the consequences of his actions, no matter how well-intentioned, didn't bring the unity or peace he once hoped for. Kojima presents us with a world that, while digitally reconnected, remains emotionally and spiritually fractured, because maybe the hardest part wasn't building the network, but learning to trust again. Fragile returns, but this time with a twist. She's no longer just a mysterious ally. Now she leads a new organization called Drawbridge, and the name couldn't be more symbolic. It's about building connections once more, reuniting what was once divided. Alongside Fragile and Lou, the game introduces several new characters who add depth to the story and gameplay. Among them are Tomorrow, Rainy, and Tarman, but one of the most peculiar is Dollman. Dollman is a talking puppet with a very distinctive animation style. He is voiced and performed by Jonathan Rumi, but his visual design is inspired by filmmaker Fatih Akin. In the story, Dahlman is a spiritual medium whose consciousness now resides within this puppet, giving him a unique nature and a singular role in the game's universe. Fragile introduces Dahlman as an active member of Drawbridge, and Sam carries him at his waist throughout the journey, making them an inseparable duo. The gameplay of Death Stranding 2 has evolved significantly compared to its predecessor. While the first game was criticized by some as a walking simulator, Kojima has responded by expanding the experience with new mechanics and a much more dynamic style of gameplay. For instance, there are now vehicles like motorcycles that can traverse rough terrain, allowing for faster exploration and greater freedom. This completely changes the sense of travel, as you're no longer solely dependent on your feet to connect the different points on the map. Combat has also been refined. It's no longer just about dodging or blocking. Now there are more fluid and varied attacks, along with new tools and weapons that cater to different playstyles. This allows for more intense encounters against enemies that seem to merge the organic with the technological. Drawbridge, the central organization in the game, represents exactly that. Its name, Drawbridge, symbolizes the choice between keeping ourselves locked away or lowering the bridge once again to reconnect with others. A clear reflection of that global dilemma we all lived through firsthand. But Kojima didn't create Death Stranding 2 solely as a response to the pandemic. He also drew inspiration from a work that, to him, perfectly captures the fear of the end of the world. On the Beach, the 1957 novel that portrays humanity's final days after a nuclear disaster. During the pandemic, Kojima revisited that book and relived its overwhelming sense of hopelessness. In On the Beach, there are no heroes, no salvation, just people waiting, fully aware that the end is inevitable. That atmosphere of resignation and melancholy deeply affected Kojima, and he has openly shared how the story led him to reflect on death, loneliness, and isolation. And that's the true root of Death Stranding 2. The on the beach in the title isn't just a metaphor for death, as it was in the first game. Now it also becomes a shared space, a kind of collective purgatory where everyone faces the same fate, a place where the fear of extinction and the hope for connection constantly collide. This game isn't just about a cataclysm. Its true essence goes much deeper. It explores that quiet fear we all share, the fear of absolute ending. Inspired by On the Beach, Kojima raises a difficult question. What do we choose when the future no longer exists? Do we reconnect or surrender to the inevitable? So maybe that's what Kojima really wants us to think about. That's the heart of the game. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes it so special. Or maybe it's just Kojima being Kojima. You know, weaving complex stories that only he fully understands, while the rest of us pretend we get it on Twitter. Either way, it definitely keeps us coming back. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe to Rotten Donut for more deep dives like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.